So, last week Steam Next Fest happened and there were over 7,000 games listed as being part of it according to SteamDB. And I played every single one of them. No, I didn't. Of course I didn't. That's 7,000 games? That's like a million games. All right, anyways, I played a ton of demos, both on stream and off. Some were really good. Some were, I'm confused. Jesus Christ, what is happening? And even though I played what felt like an eternity of demos, I just barely scratched the surface. And in this video, I'd like to talk about the ones that I think you should be keeping an eye out for. One of the games that I was most excited to play was Replaced. It's a cyberpunk action platformer with a sort of dark dystopian aesthetic. It blends pixel art with modern lighting and atmospheric effects, and I'm telling you, man, the visuals are just baller. Like, I love this art style. I spent a lot of time just like staring at the environment. It's such a beautiful game. You play as Reach, an AI forcibly trapped in a human body, navigating Phoenix City, a corrupt walled metropolis in a nuclear-scarred alternate 1980s America, where the poor have their organs harvested for the elites. Future looking pretty good, huh? The combat is very similar to the Batman Arkham style, you know, free-flow type brawling kind of shenanigans, but it's in a 2.5D side-scroller setting. It's fairly simple, but it's kind of intuitive and really engaging, surprisingly so actually. I do hope though that in the final game that it will be a little bit more involved. There's not too much decision making happening during combat, but you know, it's still fun and hopefully we'll get to see more mechanics and sort of more fleshed out combat. And out of all the games I played on stream, this is the one that most people went like, oh shit, I gotta check it out, I gotta download that stuff, I gotta give it a go whirl. That's what you sound like, chat, by the way. All right, so Denshattack. So Denshattack is basically, what if Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Jet Set Radio had a baby, and that baby was a train? So you control a gravity-defying train, riding the train tracks across Japan while you perform sick tricks all over the place. You rack out points, avoid obstacles, make routing decisions. It's kind of hard to describe this game. You sort of have to experience it yourself, or maybe the gameplay sort of speaks for itself. But yeah, I had a blast playing this, and you get like really immersed in it when you're playing it. Also, quick side note, you know those like TikToks where someone's talking and at the same time there's like Subway Surfers playing at the same time to sort of like keep you engaged in the video? I 100% believe that this game is gonna take that place. So we're gonna be seeing that a whole lot more in the future. Just mark my words, I'm telling you, man. Actually, maybe I should just have that playing at the side of the video while you're watching this to keep people engaged. One game I got really hooked on was Raccoin. This is a coin-pushing roguelike that sort of blends the chaotic fun of a classic arcade sort of coin pusher with roguelike deck-building elements. It's basically if Balatro was a coin-pushing machine. Yeah. So you drop coins into a physical pusher that triggers sort of chain reactions, and then you sort of build wild synergies from that with these like special coins.
This game got the juice, man.
Each run plays completely differently, and the sort of tactile satisfaction of watching like a perfect drop cascade into like a massive combo is mwah. Oh, it's so good, dude. Ah, I miss playing that game. So it launches on March 31st, so we don't have to wait too long. And not gonna lie, when the demo ended, I got a little bit upset because I really wanted to keep playing. I just kept like stalling on the last round for as long as I could, just like trying to squeeze as much as I could out of it. Like, this game is pure dopamine, dude. I'm telling you, like, and it's gonna require a lot of self-discipline to be able to put this down. Esoteric Ebb is a Disco Elysium-inspired CRPG set in a post-arcane punk fantasy world. Try saying that fast 3 times. You play as the world's worst cleric, investigating a conspiracy 5 days before a historic election in the city of Norvik. It features dice roll-based dialogue and branching choices, and reportedly over 25 hours of content. And we all love content. And actually, that game just launched this week, actually, on March 3rd. So yeah, it's out now. Try it out. Now, I loved Disco Elysium. I thought that game was brilliant, and this is a really interesting take on it. You can definitely tell that it's the inspiration for it. So if you love Disco Elysium, you're probably gonna like this. But it tends to lean a little bit more into like the D&D mechanics of that, if you will. Now, personally, I felt like the combat was a little bit lacking and a little bit too scripted, a bit too much of like just roll the dice and kind of see what happens, but I only played a few hours of the demo, so it probably will get more involved. And I think the further you get into it, the more sort of decision making opens up as things sort of branch off. At least that's the impression I got of it. I'm looking forward to seeing how this game does, because I think it's a like really well polished game, and I definitely think it's worth checking out. So the Eternal Life of Goldman is a sort of breathtaking hand-drawn platformer where you play as an old man with a multi-purpose cane on a quest to kill a mysterious deity across a mythical archipelago. Every single frame is traditionally animated by hand, and it looks really good. It's kind of crazy to look at. It definitely packs a punch in the art department. I'll tell you what. So it's a simple platformer, but it does its job. I would say it's more of an adventure platformer than like a true Metroidvania though, but you sort of like get to travel along the archipelago and you unlock new abilities and new canes as you go. And I think the footage will speak for itself on whether you'll like this one or not. It was super overwhelming when I first booted this up.
What is happening right now? Let me just get this butt plug. I don't know if I can keep playing this game.
The first level is crazy, but in a good way, I think. So the floor above is a claustrophobic psychological horror game where you wake up strapped to a chair in a looping room. If you've ever seen games like Exit 8 or I'm on observation duty, this is somewhat like that. So you're strapped to a chair, and the only mechanics you really have are like you can rotate around looking in the room, you can zoom in and out, you can blink, and you can decide whether what you're seeing is real or a hallucination. Each cycle takes you one floor higher with new anomalies. And yeah, basically you're just trying to spot like if the room looks normal. And if the room looks normal, you press the green button. If the room looks weird or something is off, you press the little red button and you get out of there, dude. Some rooms are harmless, some are dangerous as they can kill you if you don't make the right decisions. This was actually a lot of fun to play on stream. I really recommend other streamers to check it out and play it on stream because it's a great game to sort of get folks in chat to participate and weigh in on like whether, you know, like what do you think about the room, or if it's safe or not, or if they just want to blame me for messing things up. I don't know. It did have a couple of jump scares.
Go away.
Ah, fuck me! And I think it's a worthy continuation of like that type of genre. However, I just want to point out, if you have arachnophobia, then maybe steer clear of this one. Garden Inc. is a cozy sandbox exploration game where you sort of paint and merge decorations to grow your handcrafted world. Think relaxing coloring book meets like creative discovery with charming minigames and some hidden secrets here and there scattered throughout. If you've ever played something like Little Alchemy, where you sort of like combine things and turn that into something else, and then you take that and turn that into something else. It's sort of like that. There's a little bit of a puzzle mechanic of figuring out like how to make the next thing and what you need to combine. And as you go, your little garden just keeps like increasing, and it's kind of satisfying in that sense. And you can paint it and see sort of how the colors sort of propagate in your garden. It's very chill. And Hark the Ghoul is a retro first-person Souls-like dungeon crawler set in a damp, dark Victorian city run by monsters. It's heavily inspired by Kingsfield and Hollow Knight, and it features deep interconnected zones, free-form traversal, and a satisfying physics-based kick mechanic, and loads of secrets. This was actually a lot of fun. I love this sort of like PlayStation N64 era early like 3D look. I know some people associate it with like low budget sort of indie games, but this one has a lot of depth and it's really good. There's a lot of nuance to the world, interesting characters, and I'm sort of curious where the game's gonna go. So combat feels a little bit stiff and limiting, but I think that's by design. You're sort of supposed to feel weak and entrapped at first, I think. And there is an upgrade tree, so you can improve your movements, and presumably that will also open up, you know, new mechanics and whatnot. So the encounters were fun, and you kind of make interesting choices as you fight the enemies. So yeah, if you're into this kind of stuff, don't be put off by the look or like the early movement of it. How Many Dudes is a hilarious auto battler roguelike asking the age-old question, you know, how many dudes does it take to beat a gorilla? Or a horse-sized duck, or 100 toddlers. I always wonder that myself, I'm gonna be honest. Could I beat 100 toddlers? Hell yeah, I could.
Oh, that was easy. Why was I so scared about these babies?
So you recruit and mix and match a wild army of dude families. You got zombie dudes, you got ninja dudes, you got wizard dudes, you got Viking dudes. And then you send them into increasingly absurd battles. It's made by the same developers who made Crashlands, by the way. Fun fact. It's fun. I don't know what else to say. I guess it's a good time. I think the game will speak for itself, honestly. The Mailroom is a cozy horror job simulator. I never thought in my entire life I would say those words together, but yeah, here we are. So you work at a dead-end job sorting mail in the basement of a regional office of hell in Modesto, California, of all places. You sort mail, sort of like which goes where, in which tube. You send up frogs up the Phonopolis tube system, and you try and figure out like what's going on before you die and lose your soul. It's just like real life, honestly. It's got a retro look that I kind of found a little bit difficult when you're trying to read things. I felt like the graphics got in the way a little bit for the gameplay, but there's something creepy happening around every corner that sort of keeps you on edge as you work, and the graphics sort of help play into that. Mole is a psychological horror simulation game where you pilot a massive post-war drilling machine descending deep into Slavic soil. The crew is gone. The signal won't stop calling, and the further you dig, the more your sanity erodes. It's like watching this video. I saw a trailer for this a while back, and I fell in love with the aesthetics immediately. It's got this sort of like cassette futurism with early era 3D retro graphics. I'm a big fan of the art direction of this one, not gonna lie. Throughout the demo, you sort of like solve puzzles by walking around, figuring out like how the tech works in the drill machine, like how the machine itself functions, where to put what, trying to figure out what happens to the crew, why you're there, and you know, there's sort of like spooky elements scattered throughout that while you're uncovering this like wider story about, you know, what's happening and what's going on and why you are digging. It's very interesting. As far as narrative-driven games goes, this is the one demo out of all the ones that I tried that sort of gripped me the most. I am super curious about how this one is going to unfold, and I'm very much looking forward to the release of it. So a lot of people recommended Outbound to me. It's this cozy open world exploration game about van life. You start in an empty camper van and you build it into like your sort of dream mobile home. You can play this alone or with up to 3 friends. And you sort of just roam around scavenging resources, craft workstations, power your home with like solar panels or wind or water. There are no threats, anything like that. There are no timers. It's just, you know, sweet freedom and air and slow-paced discovery. For me, it was a little bit too slow-paced, but maybe it ramps up. And I can definitely see how, you know, people who are into crafting games are really gonna enjoy this. I feel like there's a build system in there that is kind of interesting and involved. You get a lot of freedom with building your camper, and eventually you can build your own house on top of it. It goes very over the top in that regard. I followed this development for this game for a while, and I truly think that they're developing something that they genuinely care about. Planet of Lana 2 is a sequel to the acclaimed cinematic puzzle platformer. I played the original Planet of Lana, and I always thought the planet was called Lana, but no, it's the main character, and I didn't figure that out until today. Cool. So yeah, Lana and her companion Mui return for a darker, bigger adventure featuring expanded companion mechanics, wall jumps, and a 6-hour journey scored by the Last Guardian composer Takeshi Furukawa. The soundtrack of the first game was really good. I listened to it a lot while I was on hikes, and I am sure that this one is going to be just as good. Now, full disclosure here, this is made by a couple of old colleagues and friends of mine here in Gothenburg, which makes me a little bit partial, but I hope that people who know me know that I wouldn't be recommending this if I didn't genuinely find this game good. So in the first game, a lot of critique was that the puzzles were a little bit underwhelming, but they've seemingly taken that feedback and incorporated much more involved puzzle mechanics this time. I sort of felt that when I played the demo. It really plays into sort of the unknown aspect that you get from games like Another World. And this game came out yesterday, actually, so yeah, get it now. Wanderburg is a minimalistic medieval roguelike where you pilot a castle on wheels that devours everything in its path. Village, flocks, rival fortresses, you name it. Anything goes. And apparently it's inspired by Mortal Engines and Howl's Moving Castle. This is another one of those that like a lot of people recommended me trying. And I just had to cave to peer pressure. But yeah, no, it feels really good when you figure out like a good build. The steering is kind of weird, but it's still very refreshing and fun. Speaking of roguelikes, Wielders of the Essence is a vampire survivor style roguelike. So instead of upgrading your character, you bring resources like gold, lumber, and stone back into your base camp between runs. So your power comes to sort of building up your settlements. So it gives this satisfying loop of like going out to fight and then coming back richer and like watching how your homestead sort of grows. And this is also made here in Gothenburg by Lava Potion actually, who you may know through Coffee Stain. They also made Songs of Conquest, which by the way, if you're into like games like Heroes of Might and Magic, it's heavily inspired by that. So just like sideline shout out, I guess. But yeah, I love the pixelated art style from this one. As a Vampire Survivors type game, this is more of a slow paced one. The big appeal of those games is usually that like things go very crazy, you know, fast and right away, but this doesn't really have that. You sort of start off with basically nothing and you can't really beat the first level regardless of what you do during that run until you sort of built up your base camp. So it might feel slow and sluggish at first, but like it's gonna build up, and when it hits, and you're just gonna wanna keep going, you know, just one more run. The bigger satisfaction for this game comes from watching sort of your base grow and sort of leveling it up and feel stronger when you sort of enter every fresh new run. Sort of, it's more like about the long play, you know? You're not playing for this run, you're playing for the next one, and I think that's pretty interesting. Wild Blue Skies is a love letter to Star Fox 64 from a veteran Nintendo programmer, Gal Scudard, who actually, I think, worked on the original Star Fox 64. It's an on-rails aerial shooter with anime-style visuals, fully voiced characters, branching paths, and cinematic boss fights. So you pilot Bowie Stray and the Blue Bombers through vibrant biomes, taking down the evil Baron Grimclaw. It's like if Nintendo won't make a new Star Fox, like these guys will. And it's fun. It's got all the elements of Star Fox 64. It feels good to play around, very well polished. Good shit. Yeah, it's basically a spiritual successor to Star Fox 64. Maybe a bit too similar, but it's still good. I had a good time. Phonopolis. So this is a game made by Amanita Design, who made Machinarium. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that this studio is still out there making these type of games. It's such a heartwarming thing to see, you know? I love point and click adventure games. I grew up on that shit. And I don't really know how big of appeal it is these days. But yeah, it warms my heart to see that they're still around. Phonopolis is set in a handcrafted cardboard 3D world. You follow Felix, a garbage collector who discovers a headset that breaks him free from an authoritarian leader's mind-controlling broadcasts. It's loosely inspired by George Orwell and Karl Kapak. It's funny, political, and visually stunning. What more could you ask for? There's a puzzle in particular in the demo that I really enjoyed, where you're trying to like figure out how to get to the top floor of a building that you can sort of shift and move around like a dollhouse sort of. And I love this puzzle. It was really fun to solve. One cool thing with the demo too is I really wish more developers would include these sort of like behind the scenes content showing, you know, how the game was made, and Amanita did this in the demo, and I think I think it's super interesting. I think that's how you sort of humanize the process and the medium. Them just adding that makes the game feel so much more like art. Now, the most played demo during Next Fest was probably Bungie's Marathon, at least as far as I could tell. Marathon has obviously had a little bit of a troubled past in development, but I do hope that people give it a fair chance, and I think we finally had that chance during Steam Next Fest, you know? Because I think there's this like culture of people that just want to like hate on things for the sake of hating things, and people tend to form their opinions on things without even looking into it and just like based on what the masses are saying. So I think definitely checking it out, and I did hear a lot of positive things about it. I heard people didn't like the UI, but people had a lot of good things to say about the game itself, and I think that was pretty nice to hear. When I saw that there were 7,000 demos in Steam Next Fest, I was really worried that it was going to be very hard to find good games. You know, we're sort of living in times now where AI slop has like completely overrun some of the medium that we're using, and we're all just waiting for the robot uprising shoveling and shittified entertainment into our faces. But honestly, I didn't have a hard time finding good games. I think if you know what you're looking for in a good game, it's not too hard these days to sort of sort through the slop, so long as you have the patience for it and sort of know what you're looking for. out of these 7,000 titles, roughly 1,000 had the like AI tag listed on them. And I was curious and I browsed through a couple of these. Most games that use this tag displayed it as either having like very minor influence on the game itself, or they were kind of vague about like what they did with it. I still think that most people sort of see declarations of AI games as something to be frowned upon. And this is something that, developers using generative AI are very well aware of. I think most games that use AI don't want to disclose that they do. But I also think that developers that legitimately think they have something really good on their hands, where sort of people can overlook the fact that they used AI, they'll be more upfront about that. So the concern here is that like with so many games, there's going to be a lot of slop, making it hard to find the good ones. But I think this problem has sort of existed since before, from just the barrier of entry being lowered for game development all the time. The question is just, how much will this increase? If anything, it's a curation problem, outside of like all the ethical implications of AI and whatnot. But I don't think passion and interest in making good games is going to disappear because of AI. And I certainly hope that people will stop caring about that stuff. It's just going to be harder to sort of find these games. I am skeptical of the argument that like the algorithm will make good games bubble up. I think that's partially true, but I've also seen countless examples of games that I've played that I think were, criminally underrated. And there's a few hit games that, didn't take off until like years after the release. But since we're mostly guessing how the algorithm works and, what you need to do to be able to adopt to it, it's kind of hard to say what's right or wrong. But yeah, a lot of good demos. I'm actually surprised by how many I genuinely really enjoyed. It also kind of scares me a little bit making my own game because, I'm competing with people's time and interests. Seeing just how many good games there are, it's kind of daunting how high the bar is if you're releasing a game these days, and just how much effort is required as a bare minimum for people to, want to spend their time on it, let alone take an interest in it. But on the discoverability thing, looking back on the games that I played, I realized afterwards that a lot of the games that I played were games that I already knew about before Steam Next Fest. I tried to stray from my bubble as much as I could, but when I look back at the list, a lot of these games already had like good marketing going for them. Steam Next Fest functions as a marketing beat for games that already have momentum. So it makes it extra hard for those developers that, are starting fresh to use Next Fest as like a way to sort of try and reach out to their audience. I don't think you can do that fully. Like, I'd say don't put all your eggs in one basket with Steam Next Fest. Like, you can't just put out your demo out there and expect it to just be found. You are competing with developers that have already caught their core audience, It's tough. I always love doing these demo runs on stream. I think it's so much fun to just like smorgasbord of demos. Let me know what games you're looking forward to the most, or if there are any games that you think I should have checked out, and make sure to drop those in the comments. Until next time, take care.